I'll add to Dr. Pepper is it is a tight number of hops. It's very good. My name is Levi, like Grace said. Thank you for the intro. Your friendship is really fun. And I'm sad you're leaving us soon. But I thought today my introduction would actually be to share with you my extremely niche hobby. And so I'm curious if you guys have niche hobbies as well. Like, can we shout some of them out? Do we have any niche hobbies?
Sword fighting.
Sword fighting, yes! That's so cool. Do we have any other not a lot of people do them? Yeah. Paintings based on what? Your favorite words? Sick. What else do we have?
Oh, what's your one? What's a niche hobby?
Niche is like, if you poll, say about 100 people, one of them probably does it. Like about our room, One or two, three. Like Emma Cromer plays the violin. That's like, I think you're the only person I've ever known to play the violin. Hey, there you go. I was looking for you. You're over here. Does anyone else play the violin in here? That's two. Thank you for sharing that, true. That was really common. So my incredibly niche hobby is I like to play video games where they are super historical, you stare at a map, and you make your borders expand.
Yeah!
And so, yeah, I want to show you some of my creations today. And so you can, be like, yeah, this is sick. Or you can be like, I'm a coworker that just showed you their niece. And you can be like, thanks for showing. Like, you can have either reaction, right? So look at that. I conquered all of Northern Africa. Isn't that awesome? What's the next one? I conquered all of India. Look at that. And the color's awesome. Okay, what's the next one? And there we go. Of course, I had to recreate the Roman Empire, so I did. Because you should, You should. And I want to share one of my all-time favorites. And so you can go to the next one if you want. This is my all-time favorite campaign. I started as a small count in France. And I worked my way up. I had, meager means. I became a duke. All of a sudden, the Iberians unified and conquered southern France. And it's like, now I'm the Duke of Iberians? I'm a French person. What the heck is going on? And so then, of course, I became independent, became a king and emperor, and then, of course, I destroyed the Iberians. And then you can see, I conquered Britain, I conquered Italy. I made an awesome dynasty of genius people with amazing educations, because you play a lineage, so it's super sick. And thank you guys for getting excited, this is awesome. And always, in any of my games, I look for two things. I love to secure, to really secure my national security. I like to have an army that's larger than the other people around me, so I can do whatever I want. All the things, you saw me doing whatever I wanted. I like to get power to get my national security, and I kind of like to do the poetic revenge a little bit too. I like to get back at the people that have hurt me. And as we've been going through John, I can't help but look at the historical situation that's happening with a little bit of my lens of nerding out as someone who kind of helps make kingdoms and sustains them somehow in video games. So anyways, if we look at Rome, how many people have gone to the Hebrew class? Isn't it awesome? One of my favorite things has been learning some of the historical context. Dan has shared either in the class or with me, Rome is looking for peace. They have their power and they want to establish peace. And they get it by if you try to go against what they say, if you try to go against what they want, if you want to worship someone besides the emperor, done, executed, gone, out, right? If you want to not pay taxes, done, executed, gone, out. If you want to be politically free, done, executed, gone, out. The Romans get their peace, sure, but it's at the expense of the people they rob and take and get. And if we even look at the Jewish context too at the time, like they were longing for a Messiah, a Savior, someone who'd be their king from the line of David, and they're like, we want our freedom. We want to get these Romans out of here. We want to be free. And so this is kind of our context that I'm envisioning as we enter into and have been going through the story of John. And so I want to turn to John 13, and I really want to look at what Jesus does with power. Like, you look at me, I want revenge and I want security. And you look at Rome and it wants to establish peace by taking it by force from people. And even look at the Jews, the Hebrews, and what they want with power is freedom. And they want to fight for it and establish it. And so I want to really turn and look at what Jesus has to say about power. Does he get power like all the others? And so we're going to start by reading, and I'm going to get a drink of water. So you can turn to John 13. You can look at it on the screen. It's right there. But I need some water. Okay, so it was just before the Passover festival, and Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave the world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" And Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." And so what does Simon Peter say? He says, okay, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. No, he doesn't. What does he say? No. He says no. I forgot what the next one. Yeah. You shall never wash my feet. There we go. Like, I think it's super easy for us to be like, oh, this is obviously what Jesus should do. Like, I'm equal, you're equal. Obviously, our leaders should think about us and serve us. Like, no. You could probably hear a pin drop in this room. Like, Jesus is king. He is Lord. He is their teacher. And he wants to act like a servant. He wants to act like a slave. If anybody should be brown-nosing their teacher, it's the disciples and not Jesus. Brown-nosing his students. And so, this is so shocking. What's happening right now. That Peter is like, Peter's bold. We know that about him. But he's like, no. So if we keep reading, Peter says, or Jesus answers him anyways, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him. And that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I've done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that your teacher and Lord has washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set an example to that you should do as I have done for you." So do you catch his example? Even though he's king and teacher and deserves honor, he's not like, no, I don't need honor, right? He's more concerned with giving than getting from those he has power over. If we even read just a bit later, he kind of brings this into clarity by showing us his motivation. In verse 34, he says, "A new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another." This is like central to the kingdom that Jesus is establishing. This is like the last thing that he's going to command his disciples to do. And he's showing them, very shockingly, that it's not about getting from anybody, that God and him aren't concerned with what they can take from people, but that it's about what he is going to give, what he has to give. He's showing us, too, that his kingdom expands by this giving, by this example, by loving each other.
That's right.
And C.S. Lewis, who, if you read, you should read out his books. And if you don't read, you should read. He has this to say about the kind of love that Jesus is talking about and the kind of example that Jesus set. He says, "Of course, taking in the poor, illegitimate child is charity. Charity means love. It is called agape in the New Testament to distinguish it from eros, which is sexual love, and storge, familial affection, and philia, which is friendship. So there's 4 kinds of love, all have their proper place, but agape, this love that Jesus is showing in the story, is the best kind. This is the kind that God has for us, and is good in all circumstances. There are people I mustn't feel eros towards, and people I can't feel storge or philia towards, but I can practice agape to God, angels, man, and beast, to the good and bad, the old and the young, the far and the near. You see, agape is giving, not getting." And he goes on to finish his quote by saying, "Giving money is only one way of showing charity. To give time and toil is far better, and for most of us, harder." And notice, though it is all giving, you needn't expect any reward. How you do gets rewarded almost at once. This is kind of the beginning. This dinner is kind of the beginning of the end of Jesus' ministry. It's the start of his last teachings. And he thought it was important not to just have a good time, or didn't think it was important just to do anything, but teach you one last thing. That's about this kind of self-sacrificing, giving, agape love. And this is even foreshadowing something bigger that he will do as he leads and walks towards the cross. And we'll see what Rome tries to take from Jesus. We see what the Hebrews try to take from Jesus with their power, that even though they seem to be taking from him, he is actually giving everything that he has. And it's this cross execution that enthrones him as the king who sits at the right hand of God and deserves all glory and honor. But it's his sacrifice and his love that does this. And so I want to ask, what does your kingdom look like? Is it one of getting? Or is it joined and submitted to God's and giving? And I want to do 2 more things before we close. I want to answer the question. How did I phrase the question? Yeah, Levi, I'm a college student, and I don't have a lot. How can I love sacrificially? So I want to answer this question and tell one more story before we kind of close tonight. Is that cool? Do you want me to cut one of them? Okay. Dom wants me to cut one of them. Sweet. Okay. I can do that, Dom. Don't worry. I'm kidding. All right. So I created the College Student's Guide to Loving Sacrificially. And I was thinking about my time in college, and I thought of 4 things. The knowledge that you have, the time that you have, your spiritual experience or fire, and money. However, I don't really know what your kingdom looks like, to use a metaphor. Maybe you throw, you can add a few things to it. Like maybe you throw your couch in there because maybe someday, like, someone says, hey, I don't feel safe in my house. Like, can I crash in your couch? That's sacrificial love. Maybe someone says, hey, I don't have my cards in the shop. Can you drive me to get groceries? That's sacrificial. So you can add stuff to the list. I'm just saying this is Levi's abbreviated, short guide to sacrificial love. All right? So just thinking about knowledge. When I was in college, I had a roommate who was a super duper senior. His name was Aaron. And a lot of the staff know who I'm talking about. And I did homework with him at 11 p.m., 2 or 3 times a week. And if any of you do homework at 11 p.m., you know it kind of sucks. It's not the best time to do homework. But I did it both because I kind of needed accountability to do my homework, but I knew he needed help. And I got to build an amazing friendship with him that wouldn't have started if I didn't just do homework with him and share the fact that I had maybe a bit more grasp for what was happening than he did in the class. But now I also get to hear about how he has a cool engineering job in Montana, and I can kind of like, I didn't cause this to happen, but I can share in like some of his joy and have like, I helped him. And that's some of my joy that I get because I did homework with him at 11 p.m. So you can share your knowledge, you can share your time. I was thinking of which story to share, and I'll share this one. I normally said no to going on mission trips with Chi Alpha as a student because I said sarcastically, I love my family, implying that if you go on mission trips, you hate your family. And so I went on my first missions trip as a senior in college. Because I was like, fine, I'll do it. Like, sure, I'm going to be an intern next year. I'm going to work for Chi Alpha. I should go on an internship, or on a missions trip. And I go, and I not only have an amazing time, it like breaks my heart for the south side of Chicago, but I also, like, the world shut down for COVID that year, and I got to go back and spend like a week with my family because classes got pushed out and pushed online. And I'm not saying that when you give your time to God, He always gives it back, but it seems that that's how He likes to operate. I notice when I give my time, sometimes my homework seemed to be easier, that I didn't have to study as hard for tests. I also didn't care as much as a student, but there's that I needed to work through as well with God. And yet I had what I thought I was giving up anyways. So you can give your time, you can give you can serve with your spiritual experience. I want to see your time, really quick, circle back. If you feel like you should give something, our prayer team needs more people to pray. We need at least 2 dudes and two dudettes. And if you can speak words and love God and are teachable, you can be on the prayer team. This is me empowering you. You can give your time. The spiritual experience at Fire. So as I gave my life to Jesus and decided I want everybody to know Him, I'm going to lead small group. Why not? I felt like every week for the first 2 years of leading small group, and still now as a 26-year-old who hangs around college students, that I was taught so much by the questions that people asked, by the way they made me think and meditate on God, that I felt more that I had gathered a group of people to spiritually feed me than I had actually gathered a group of people for them to experience more of God. And so I'm just saying, if you feel like you have some experience, you've grown up in the church, or you got saved last night and you're on fire and you want Him to be known, you should consider our leadership journey. When we started in March, just get to know who we are and what it would mean to lead a small group. Anyways, my last thing, money. I've always had a pretty poor attitude towards money for a long time. because you only have so much of it, and you want to hoard it up for yourself. And last spring, I wasn't a college student. I was a pastor, a few guys. Last spring, I felt like something was maybe shifting, and Michelle Mergens was in town. And does anyone remember Michelle? For speaking, yeah. She's basically a Chi Alpha person in Denmark. To college students there is the quickest way to summarize. And I felt for years that I should probably join her team. And she was here. And I was like, if I don't join her team now, I'm never going to join her team. And so I did. And not like 3 seconds later, that probably wasn't that, but I'm dramatic. If you don't know us missionaries, we aren't salaried like church staff. People who love you guys give us money to have this job. They donate to us and pay our salary. And so I joined Michelle's team because I felt like I should. And then I had someone join my team, which is ridiculous. Like, what kind of timing is that? It's so dumb. I'd asked them a lot to join my team. They always said no. And then they joined my team. Like, for some reason, when we give our money, God wants to provide for us anyways, because it's sacrifice for Him. And so, you might be thinking, this is awesome, Levi. Like, I want to love sacrificially. How do I do this? And I'm here to tell you that I'm not actually telling you how to do this. I'm just getting you excited for this. Because as we keep going through John, you're going to learn about the Holy Spirit, and you're going to learn about abiding in God. And those are the two things that will put you on fire for really sacrificially loving people. And I think Rachel will talk about the Holy Spirit next week. And Jenny also kind of already talked about abiding in God, but it will come in John 15, maybe? We'll see. We'll see what they actually preach on. But that will come. But we should really feel this weight of Jesus' command to us to love one another, and that somehow shows our allegiance to Him. And I wanted to share one last story before I begin to kind of close. And I was, 6 months ago, my church, The River, started a young adults group, and it's sick. Does anyone actually go here? Or go to it? Sick? Yeah? It's awesome, right? The first few weeks, even though it was sick and a blessing, I talked to probably only awkward guys. Where I'm the one who has to be reinitiating the conversation, making sure it keeps going. I have to insert myself a little bit so they know that I exist. And I'm on the drive home with from the group one night, and I'm talking to God, and I'm like, God, didn't I upgrade? Didn't can I have cool friends? Why is it that I'm I'm glad this is the first time I'm trying to meet people or have friendships in a long time. But do they have to be the awkward ones? And he said this to me. He didn't audibly speak this, but I felt it. Who would talk to them if you didn't? And I didn't remember it at the time, but I'm remembering it now. When I was a freshman in college, I was more awkward than them. I was shy and mistrustful. I didn't really share about myself. If you asked me to talk, I would talk. But I just kind of would exist, especially those first few weeks. And so when I was getting integrated in Chi Alpha, someone named Aaron Kwach, is that his last name? Yeah, okay. I stood by him, and he stood by me. Let me sit by him in service. He asked me how my week went. I'd have stilting, broken conversation with them, I'm sure, because that's how I was. I'm really grateful for him. Probably did the most thankless job God ever thought of.
But he welcomed me here. I found God. Amazing friends. And a great job. Well, because of him. And if we did that for each other, and I know we are, but if we do this for each other, if we love each other, pour out our allegiance to Jesus as sacrificial love towards each other, if we show this to our campus and the world, to Duluth, how much more would what we have be so good and rich and beautiful, right? That there's something like powerful in our sacrificial, giving love. Instead of having our lives be about getting from people and relationships, that's about giving